Let's get this party started as we invite Beverly Lair to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you so much, Beverly. As I mentioned earlier, we have many groups gathered today to remind our government that we are not satisfied with the current operation, as is proven by a Congress with an approval rating of just under 20%. When I went to school, 75% was a passing grade. But here to improve this operation, to stem the tide of crazed budgetary overruns and irresponsible mortgaging of the future of our children, we welcome Wake Up America of Rogue River and Josephine County, the Jackson County chapter of Americans for Prosperity, Jack Adkins of Freedom Works, Eric Dubin of Stop the Land Grab, and fair tax advocate Doug Lefevre. Also among us, we have individuals who have taken up the challenge, as did our forefathers when they signed the most significant document of freedom since the Magna Carta, some 5 centuries before, pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. These are citizens of conscience and concern who willingly submit themselves to the stern examination of the political electoral cauldron. These are local candidates for your consideration. They can do more to affect the local process of government closer to home, and they warrant your attention, your scrutiny, and eventually, for whomever you choose, your vote. We first welcome Sandy Abercrombie, candidate for House District 5, challenging the incumbency of Mr. Peter Buckley. Welcome, Sandy. Standing for Jackson County Commissioner Position 2 to fill the rather substantial shoes, or in this case, boots, I guess, of retiring Commissioner C.W. Smith, and these are in alphabetical order, to be sure, Doug Bridenthal, Kay Harrison, and Colleen Roberts. Seeking to fill the seat vacated by long-term Jackson County Assessor Dan Ross are Josh Gibson and Roy Wright. And running to replace retiring Jackson County District Attorney Mark Huddleston is Rob Patridge, who I am told we are to thank for the use of this public address system today. And finally, running for county surveyor, Mr. Herb Farber. For all the liberal candidates standing for these positions, thank you also for your sacrifice and your efforts. As Paul Harvey would have said, they would want me to mention their names. Our first speaker on this tax day rally, yes, one more. Dave Hoppy, not to neglect you, Dave, standing for District Attorney. By way of explanation, they had you on and off my list 3 times, and we forgot to make the final correction. Our first speaker on this tax day rally is a man who's been the local force behind the Fair Tax Initiative almost since its inception here in Southern Oregon. He first encountered it in 2005 and shortly thereafter became its volunteer community coordinator in Jackson County. He probably knows more about how it works and why, like a lot of us think, it's the fair and right thing to do. Please welcome Doug Lefevre.
Thank you, Gard. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see so many faces that I've seen before. Unfortunate that we don't have a lot of other faces here. but hopefully they will hear our words through your lips. Tax Freedom Day. In Oregon, it's April 15th. Nationally, Tax Freedom Day arrives on April 17th. Kind of funny that it happens to fall on the same day that your taxes are due. It's 4 days later than last year due to higher federal and corporate tax collections. This means Americans will work 107 days into this year to pay their federal, state, and local tax bill. If we include the deficit, that's an additional $1.014 trillion, if you didn't know. We would need to work until May 14th instead of April 17th. In 2012, we will pay $2.62 trillion in federal taxes and another $1.42 trillion in state and local taxes, for an average total of 29.2% per taxpayer. I was looking at the debt clock this morning. This weekend, we officially have a deficit, a national debt, greater than our gross domestic product by $600 billion, growing at $100,000 every 10 seconds. It's unbelievable numbers we're talking about. So my fellow Americans, do you feel free? Do you?
No!
That's right, and you're not. Your economic freedom is in the clutches of the IRS. Your economic freedom is mired in the 72,000 plus pages of the tax code. A tax code that is manipulated by Congress to pick winners and losers, to pit one group of citizens against another. Your economic freedom is held hostage to the complexity of the tax code that virtually guarantees that you will be in violation of the code at one time or another, whether you realize it or not. Your economic freedom and your personal freedoms are currently in the hands of the United States Supreme Court with the Obamacare decision that they will come down with. They will determine if the IRS will have absolute control of your life. The IRS will become the enforcement arm of all future mandates of the new supreme federal government. President Obama has already began the process by transferring the first portion of $500 billion to the IRS to set up the enforcement process and hire the 16,000 additional IRS agents to do the job. Barbara Boxer is proposing legislation in the Senate that would require any citizen with a past due tax obligation of $50,000 or more to surrender their passport and be prohibited from leaving the country. Do you still feel free?
No way!
Capital control.
There is something we can do to reverse the direction of taxation in this country, to get us back to what the Constitution wanted in the first place. That is to pass H.R. 25, the Fair Tax Act of 2012. The Fair Tax Bill will eliminate all personal and business income taxes, payroll and estate taxes, and capital gains taxes. It creates jobs and restores the Made in America label, making U.S. products more competitive at home and overseas. It raises real wages over 10% in the first year. It saves every one of us $400 billion wasted yearly complying with 72,000 plus pages of tax regulation. It lowers tax rates for all Americans and captures taxes from the underground economy. It provides a monthly prebate to all legal American households to offset the sales taxes on the basic necessities of life. It ends the sale of tax favors to the rich, politically connected, and special interest groups. It grows the economy and the GDP by billions of dollars. It returns trillions of dollars of U.S. funds and foreign dollars overseas back into the United States, making us the best place to invest with the lowest corporate tax rate in the world instead of the highest as we have right now. It secures funding for Social Security and Medicare with a larger and more stable tax base. It's revenue neutral. It lowers product costs by removing business taxes and avoidance and compliance costs expenses now hidden in everything you buy. It eliminates the Internal Revenue Service, and it uses the states to collect the sales tax. Your help is necessary to pass this bill. Your help is needed to restore this country to the path of freedom. You can make all the difference by becoming active, and I know most of you are, but you need to get your friends active, your family active. Coming to a rally is very important. It's one of the ways we communicate. But what is more important is what you do at your own kitchen table. It is writing letters to congressmen and women, to your senators, to your state legislators, supporting the passage of H.R. 25. It is joining organizations like Americans for Prosperity, Freedom Works, and the Americans for Fair Taxation. It is donating your time, effort, and where you can, your money to fund the fight for freedom. You and I can no longer afford to sit in front of our TVs and dull our minds with Dancing for the Stars and the Real Housewives of New Jersey. We must act now. President Obama and the liberal press touted the Arab Spring. It's time for the American Spring. Time for each of us to take the message to our representatives in the halls of Congress. It is our cause and our fight we want on their lips. They need to know their political futures are on the line. So my fellow Americans, what do we want? Freedom is the word. When do we want it? Now. God bless you, and let freedom ring.
Thank you, Doug. Wise and well-composed words.